Welcome to Turtle Talk. This is Morgan's story and the family's journey. I'm Craig and
I'm Michelle. Welcome.
Kay. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's been a moment. Holidays, Christmas, so
New Year, all that stuff.
fun new time. The last time we were together, we were talking about some of the legal things. That's always been a struggle for us because trying to understand the legal world.
Unless you've lived through it, you don't know what it is.
I don't understand the medical world and I'm living through it, and then to try and understand the legal world. So, we had talked about what we knew in that moment and having to hire a lawyer while we're still in ICU. Like, who even thinks of these things? And the police coming, and so we get our attorneys. We hire a firm, and then things start happening. And this all starts happening, like we're signing the contract while we're still in the ICU with this firm to represent us. And, then things start happening. So they're hiring investigators to come in and get things, and they're requesting information, like we want the dispatch log. We need dash cam videos. Then we have our investigator interviewing people to find out what happened and when it happened and how it happened. And, so they're trying to gather all this information. They send out stuff that says, don't destroy anything, don't delete anything. Oh my gosh, it was. And so all of this, mind you, is flowing in the background. Like they're handling it. But as they're handling it, we really requested that you share this with us, because the last thing for me is I don't ever want to be blindsided. Right? Like, I want to know what's going on step by step. So at least then we're prepared for the next step, right? Even with her medical care. Where are we at right now? What is the next step? How does this play out? Probably because I maybe have OCD or I'm a control freak or whatever the case is. But, you want to know what's going on. And at this point now, we have zero trust of anyone. No trust in the cops, no trust in medical, no trust in the attorneys we just hired, because you kind of feel like everyone is out to get you.
Right. And make a buck.
And make a buck. It's all about the money, right?
Or cover their own ass.
Yeah. Yeah, that seemed to be the theme that we were feeling, especially with the cops and everybody, is, it's cover your ass time. And how are we going to get ourselves out of this pickle we got ourselves into?
Right. I know in one of the last episodes, it was even like the rumor was that they were hoping the kids died.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was help them.
To help them.
Yeah.
Because a dead man doesn't speak.
Right. Sobering.
It is very sobering to think that the people that are here to serve and protect were now trying to hide all this stuff and cover their butts and make our daughter and these kids look bad. So as all these interviews are going on and we're reading them, and we're like, like we're finding out things that even I couldn't even fathom some of the stuff that we were reading. And some of it is just too crazy to even go into. But one of the people that was interviewed, and he was on our side. He's like, what happened was wrong. And he was very forthcoming in what happened that night. And then he ended up getting fired because of helping us, for standing up for these kids, for doing the right thing. He gets fired.
Wasn't protected by retaliation.
No. Now, mind you, we have all these entities. We have city, we have county, we have state, and we have tribal, all in the mix. So everyone's governed by a little bit different rules, but still, there's right and there's wrong.
Right.
And then there's doing what's legal and what isn't legal, you know? And I think one of the things that came out was, where's the dash cam video? Oh, well, yeah, we didn't have it installed in the car. Or, oh, we don't know why things didn't work. Or, why wasn't your vest video on? Oh, maybe it was. Maybe it might have accidentally got deleted. You know, I mean, we heard it all. We heard it all. Well, first off, if you got a car out there with dash cam, that thing should have been turned on. If you have vest, it should have been turned on. And it shouldn't have been deleted. So you still don't know what's true and what's not true, but these are all the things that are coming out. One saying, yeah, they just didn't even turn it on. It was in the car, but they didn't turn it on. Why not? You know, and then we get photos. We got photos of everything. And that was a horrific day for us.
Photos of the accident.
Of the accident.
Yeah.
There was one dash cam video, and we got that. And it showed the kids laying in the field.
That's how you knew one kicked dirt.
Yeah. Yeah. Kick dirt on the kids. And it's just like, that was a horrible moment to sit there and look at these videos, and you're looking at your child laying there in a pasture, helpless. And then you hear what people are saying, what these cops are saying, and they're making such light of such a horrific situation. There were some that just said, I couldn't believe the callousness of them. You know, I'm never going to point fingers or say names, but I know, and they know who said what that night, and God bless them, they should be ashamed of themselves.
We're already through the trial in real life, in real timeline.
In real timeline.
Did that stuff get brought up at the trial?
Some of it did.
Yeah.
Some of it was not relevant. You know, it is relevant. It's very relevant to us. And during the trial, there were things where like, why didn't you bring this up? And why didn't you bring that up? And they're like, we have to stick to the facts of what we're arguing.
Right.
Which I understand. I so understand. But it's just like, from the parent point of view, is the validation that you guys were assholes that night. You guys were assholes through this whole thing, harassing us, parking on the corner, watching our kids, following us down the road, you know, driving by our house 10 times a day. Like, this is ridiculous. This is harassment. And there's no way for us to ever get true recognition or validation that, you know, hey, I'm really sorry they did that. Or even an officer coming by and saying, I'm really sorry we did this to you. There was never any of that, because, boy, if we apologize, that's an admission of guilt.
Right.
So we're just going to keep doing it. And, you know, that was hard, you know, and they did depositions and things were coming out. And it's like, you know, the officer that ultimately did this to my daughter and to those other two boys, he was such a POS officer. He was working for the county, doing other high-speed chases, doing things that should have put him in jail. Stalking another officer, and yet he's still an officer. He doesn't get fired. You know, he's doing this. He gets reprimanded. Finally, his behavior got so bad that he gets fired. But then the other agency picks him up and uses him as a cop there. where he tries to kill my daughter, kill these kids. So before he can get fired from there, he quits. You know, we find out that all these agencies, all these different letter agencies or whoever they were, all are coming in and investigating, and this is a bad thing. In one of the records, he had called his supervisor and said, I think I'm in trouble. Well, no shit.
Yeah.
You almost killed these kids. You were outside of your jurisdiction. You were, you know, in a high-speed chase, not listening to your superiors. I mean, it was a mess. So he's working for this agency, and when they come in and start investigating what happened, because now we're dealing with federal agencies too, he quits. So what happens? He gets fired from the county. He's working for the feds. He quits, and then the city hires him. Like all in the same county, there's these 3 agencies. And he just rotated through them. And it's like, what is wrong with these people?
No kidding.
Does nobody communicate? Does nobody look at his record? Does nobody look at anything? You know, I keep going back to when the stuff that he did that got him fired from the first agency, that should have been reported to the state.
Yeah. Or some kind of Overwatch.
Overwatch, exactly. Something that put this on his record that says, here's what he did. But he just rotated through.
Yuck.
He just rotated through. He stayed a cop for a very long time. It wasn't until this past year when the final ruling came down from the courts that he finally got let go. Finally. 8 years later. Other bad things were happening under his watch, and everybody's just like, oh, right under the carpet. I'm appalled. I am really appalled that that's how this area is working. I'm not saying all areas do this. I'm saying this is what happened in this area, and it's still to this day angers me to a level that I get enraged by it, that he was able to continue to be a cop for as long as he did after the things he had done, not just to our daughter, but to other community members and throughout the whole county, and everybody just foo-fooed it under the rug like it was no big deal. You know, and that was things we were reading. They started, you know, we're seeing the investigations. We're seeing the photos. We're watching the dash cam video. I'm not an idiot. My husband's not an idiot. You can look at this and say, wow. Just from a civilian point of view, looking at it, saying, there is something seriously messed up here. Reading the dispatch logs saying, there is something seriously messed up here.
Right.
Like, I'm a law-abiding person. If the cop says you need to stop, you stop. If the cop says, hey, you know what, this is out of control, let's terminate the chase. And another one says, nope, I'm going to keep on going. So that night, I don't remember how much of this we covered and stuff. The kids were out. Morgan and the driver had gone to the races, gone out for dinner. They went over to the other boy's place. They were all hanging out. One of the friends called and said, hey, we're at this house party. Come on out. We'll get there eventually, right? So as they're driving out there down a gravel road, they can see that the cops have busted the party, right? They can see it. So they're driving along. They're doing 35 miles an hour on a gravel road, well below the speed limit, right? Turn on their blinker, turn down the road. They made the decision, a conscious decision. Let's drive by and see who's getting arrested, right? just like everybody else in the world does when there's an accident or something. You drive by and you're looking like this,
We're
right?
all rubberneckers.
Rubberneckers. Yep, exactly. And so they turn and they go down this road. As they're going down the road towards the house party, a cop comes this way, which we find out later was a highway patrol, and he whips around, turns on his lights. Okay? Now, mind you, they're just doing 35.
Yeah.
So they come to a stop at the driveway of the house party, and the highway patrol is right behind him, and there's a cop car here. And so there's a cop in the road and a cop over here. And they stop the kids, and a few things transpire, which at this time we don't know what's transpired. And then the kids hit the gas and take off. Okay? What we later found out was this cop here pulled a gun on the kids.
For nothing.
For nothing. This is where I get irate. So there's been no traffic violations. There's no drinking. There's no drugs. It's just 3 kids out having a good time, driving around, just stopping by, driving by to see who got arrested, right? And they get stopped. And then they take off. So what made them take off? Well, later we find out there's a gun pulled on them. Well, shit, I'd probably take off too, right? And for what reason? Right? So the highway patrol, who's behind them, starts the chase. It goes into very high speeds very quickly, and he loses sight of them. So he terminates the chase. Right?
I'm sure he's got the plate number.
They got the plate number. They knew who was driving.
Right.
They knew he had an ankle bracelet on because the dispatch logs show all this.
Right.
Right? So now what? He terminates the chase. He says, everyone go back to the party. Well, when he took off after the kids, the cop that was here and the one in the driveway hop in the police car. And they whip around and they join the chase. So they're number 3 in line. Highway patrol terminates. This one claims he got hit by the pickup. That the pickup ran him over. I don't know about you guys, but in my world, if a big 3/4 ton Dodge that's lifted runs you over, you're not getting up.
Right. Right.
Right? So he claims this. And now, mind you, we don't know either way for sure until later on. We'll figure that out. But so he claims he got hit. He went and searched for the kids until he found them and then re-engaged.
Same cop that pulled the gun.
The same cop that pulled the gun is now chasing them.
Yep.
And chases them for, I don't know, something like 20 minutes.
Yeah. I think we went through the timeline.
20 minutes, high speed, very high speed, zigzagging over gravel roads, through minimum maintenance roads, cross a major highway, runs them down a dead end road. And for what? What did they do? That has always been our biggest question. What the heck did they do? But in court, those questions are answered. But those kids didn't do anything. They were just, it could have been you and me driving down the road, being Snoopy, and then to end up like this. This changed their lives forever.
All of your lives.
All of our lives. The kids, their families, all of us. It changed all of us. You know, my daughter will never, she'll never be the Morgan that left us that night.
Right.
And like I said before, I blame 2 people. I blame that cop and I blame that kid who took off. You know, I get it. He was trying to protect her because there's a gun. And they had done nothing wrong. And we raised our kids that, you know, you do what's right and the cops are always going to protect you. So how do I explain this to my other kids when we find out that he pulled the gun on them for no reason? None of them even had, there was no weapons, there was no drugs, there was no drinking, there was no violating any laws. Nothing.
He had an ankle monitor. They knew who he was.
They knew who he was. They could have got him at any time.
Yeah.
So what warranted this cop to be so aggressive after he was told to terminate the chase?
No excuse.
There is no excuse. There is never an excuse for that. His decisions that night, he could have changed that one. He could have made one different decision that night, and we wouldn't be where we are. I wouldn't be doing a podcast right now,
Right.
telling Morgan's story.
Yeah.
Because she'd be fine. She'd be living her life. She'd be having kids. Graduated from school, being a nurse. All of it. But he took it all away from her. Both of them did. And that's unforgivable. For me, that is unforgivable. I pray for forgiveness. More so for me than for them. But, you know, how do you... It's a struggle every day. Like that big why has hung over our head every day since this accident. Why? Why didn't the cops just do the right thing? Why did they have to be so aggressive? And why was this cop, who is such a derelict to the job, why was he still a cop? Why didn't these oversight people, the city, the county, all of them, why did they let this behavior go on? When they knew what he had done prior to this accident, all the things he was doing, why didn't they fight harder to pull his certification or do something to stop that bad behavior?
Right.
Mandatory aggression training, mandatory some kind of training, something. But everybody just turns the other cheek and just pushes him off to the next agency. It just, there were a lot of decisions that night that ruined those 3 kids' lives and almost destroyed the families for all of them. Because this has not been easy. You know, Tom and I have blamed each other for what happened. Like, could have we have done something different? How could have we have protected her? You know, why did we let her go out that night? The what if game. And we'd still do it. Every day I still do it.
Yeah. Human nature to do that.
It is. And then there's days that I'm angry and there's days that I cry because of everything that she's lost. You know, this is not what anybody wants for their child. And when it's at the hands of evil people, how do you know, these families, you see other families, you know, where I'm trying to think, but like that poor lady that got stabbed on the train or wherever, on the bus, the train.
Right.
You know, I know their family's doing the same thing we've done. Is why? Why is always the big question. Why? Why didn't the people that are supposed to protect us do what they were supposed to do? Why was that person out of jail? Why was that person allowed back on the streets to cause more harm to people? It just, I don't know. I don't know how it could ever, it's got to get changed. And there needs to be more accountability. However, I do still fully support the police. And I support the judicial system. You know, I support the law. And the biggest thing we've heard is, well, your kids, those kids should have never took off. And
Should
you know
never
what?
pulled the gun.
I agree. But
Two things
once
can
again,
be true.
two things can be true at once. The gun should have never been pulled, and they should have never taken off. However, when I say they should have never been taken off, the driver should have never taken off, because him and that cop both made decisions that affected these other two kids in that vehicle, and they didn't get a choice.
Right.
They didn't get a say. They didn't get a choice. They didn't get any of that. All their decisions were taken away from them. So it's three kids out, hanging out, having a good time. Life is good, you know. We also heard that, well, they should have never gotten the truck with him to begin with if he was such a bad apple. You know what? That kid had trouble. The driver had trouble in his life prior to that. He did a good job of cleaning himself up, straightening his life around. He was doing good things in society. But because he had a past, my daughter should have never gotten the truck with him. Well, you know, she thought she was safe. She actually knew she was safe. They'd done things many times, the three of them, hung out, whatever, you know. That night, though, all the choices were taken away. Yeah, she had a choice whether she got in that truck or not that night, but if she felt safe and things were good, done it 100 times before. So who's really at fault here? My child for hanging out with her friends like everyone's child does? Or the person who's supposed to serve and protect, who got very aggressive, got a big head on him, and decided to go forward?
I know my answer.
You know, there's choices everyone gets to make. And then there's times in your life when choices are taken away. And what I really wish people would hear and understand in this is there is so much blame to go around. But there were two kids there who should have zero blame on them. They didn't have the choice. And before people are really quick, I love how people are so quick to say, well, if they hadn't gotten the truck, or, well, if they hadn't done this. Let's look at the full picture. Put blame where blame is due.
Right.
At some point, my question always was, who was supposed to be the head of reason?
Who was the adult?
Who was the adult? And who was supposed to be the voice of reason in all of this?
Law enforcement.
The law enforcement. They were supposed to be the adults in the situation. They were supposed to be the voice of reason. They were supposed to look at things objectively and say, hey, if this chase continues, something bad's going to happen. We need to stop this chase, which the one cop did.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
The one cop terminated it. So why didn't some of the other officers step up and terminate the second cop who did this? And there were a lot of players in this game.
I suppose.
There were a lot. There were a lot of agencies. They were calling other counties to join in. It was a mess.
To join in the high-speed chase?
Yeah.
The
If it went
round?
one direction or the other direction, those counties were on standby to join in. And for what? What law did they break? They didn't kill anybody. They didn't kidnap anybody. They didn't rob a bank. They weren't drinking. They weren't doing drugs. They were three looky-loos.
Right.
Who got stopped and had a gun pulled on them. Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. We love hearing from you guys, so keep the comments and the questions coming for us.
Yes. Love the questions. Please subscribe. Go to www.givemorgan.org or visit me at my real estate website, realtorcraigbertrand.com. And we always want your questions, comments, like, and share wherever you listen or watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.